Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een ma ba'du. So tonight, inshallah, we're doing a book, Aqeedah of Tawheed. And we stopped last week, if you have the English, on page 20. And tonight we're starting a section which starts on page 21. We're going to begin on page 22, inshallah. And this whole section here it says deviations from the right aqeedah and the ways to be safe therefrom. Deviations from the right aqeedah and the ways to be safe therefrom. What? Which means what? What does that mean? I'm reading it again. Deviations from the right aqeedah and the ways to be safe therefrom. Huh? How to stay away from the wrong path. Okay. What else? Fasl Thalith. Learning the correct. Okay.
Or adhering to the correct aqeedah.
Adhering to what is aqeedah, so we make sure we're on the same path. The belief system, the correct belief system. What is a deviation? Because we hear this word all the time. Deviant, deviation. Huh? Going off the path. What path? The straight path. And the straight path is what? The Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. To go away from the path of Allah and the path of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that means you're going the wrong way. And if a person was following the Quran and the Sunnah, and then they started to go away from what Allah said and what His Messenger said, that means they've deviated. They went the wrong way, right? This section, it says it's a clarification. It's clarifying the reasons that people go away from the correct aqeedah, the reasons people go away from the right path. How does a person go away? Why would a person intentionally, would a person who knows the truth intentionally go away from the truth? No, it's not ma'qul. It's not really something that a person says, you know what, they're just going to go against what Allah says or His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, right? So in this section, it gives reasons. I think it's 7 or 8 reasons, 7 reasons why a person goes in the wrong path, why a person takes the wrong path. Why does a person take the path other than Allah, what Allah said or what His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said? Okay, so he mentions 7 reasons, and then after that, he mentions about 3 reasons that will protect you from going down those 7 pathways. All right, so it's 7 reasons that will take a person or take a person off of the correct path. And then there's a couple ways to make sure we don't leave the correct path. طيب. So he starts, number one. He says, والانحراف عن العقيدة الصحيحة له أسباب تجب معرفتها. من أهمها. He said, going in the wrong direction. This is on page 22 in the translation, this section here. It says, deviation from the correct aqeedah has causes. There's reasons that a person goes the wrong way, right? He said they should be known. And from the most important reasons, because it might not be restricted to the ones he's mentioning here. He's saying these are from the most important reasons. Anybody want to take a guess at the first one?
Like knowledge.
Hey, yo, exactly. Al-jahl. The first reason that a person will have a mistake and believe and have the wrong belief system, have a mistake in the way they believe in Allah, the way they believe in the Prophet ﷺ, he says, number one, al-jahlu bil-aqeedah as-sahiha. Al-jahlu bil-aqeedah as-sahiha. That a person is ignorant of the correct Islamic belief. A person doesn't know what a Muslim's supposed to believe. They're Muslim, they took Shahada, right? They said the Kalimat of Tawheed. They became a Muslim. But after that, is that it? You got to go further. You got to know. There's some basic things you have to know. And those basic things that we learn are the things that's going to keep us, right, on the straight path. He says, so the first one, ignorance. Ignorant, a person doesn't know the correct belief system. They don't know what a Muslim's supposed to believe. A Muslim who doesn't really know what a Muslim believes, what a Muslim is supposed to believe. And that could be for a couple of reasons. So Sheikh Fawzan Hafidhullah says, the first reason, بسبب الإعراض عن تعلمها وتعليمها. Number one, that a person, why would they be ignorant? Why would a person not know? How does a person not know what a Muslim believes? Huh? They didn't take the time to learn. It's simple. This is easy. A person didn't take the time to learn. They did not put forth any effort in learning the basic things that a Muslim is supposed to believe. And that leads to what? Eventually, they start to stray away. Right? Allahumma musta'an. And a lot of times people do that exact thing, and then they want to blame Islam. They want to blame Islam. They didn't take any steps to learn anything further than what they initially took their shahada with. And eventually, as time goes on, the iman, their faith gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, right? Because we Muslim, and Ahl Sunnah people of the Sunnah, we believe that iman, sometimes your faith is strong, and sometimes it gets a little weak. And there's things that make us stronger, and there's things that make us weaker, right? And if we keep doing things that make us weaker, right, that can lead to things that are worse than that. So he says, number one, people don't know what they're supposed to believe, right? And remember, these are the 7 things that do what? They lead a person to the incorrect belief. Number one, not learning. And he says that they're not learning and not teaching it. Not learning it and not teaching it. And the person might say, well, I don't know enough to teach. Right? So, in order to teach somebody something, you got to know it, right? You can't teach somebody something if you don't know it yourself. But it's, of course, everybody has something that they could teach somebody else. Right? It's something that everybody knows that you are a little more knowledgeable than the next person, no matter how you look at yourself. Right? So if a person took Shahada yesterday and they talking to somebody who's not Muslim, at the least they can tell them what the Shahada is that they took. At least this is the belief of the Muslim. This is what we believe. I don't know too much. I just became Muslim yesterday, but this is what we believe. Boom. At the least, I can't go past that. You got to go to the masjid. You got to talk to whatever you got to do. Right? So at least learning and then teaching it. This is the first reason he says. He says, or قلة الاهتمام والعناية بها, or aqeedah the belief of the Muslims are given very little importance. Right? At the grand scheme of this whole section is that these are the problems. These are the reasons that a person's belief they go away, or these are the reasons that a person that could lead a person to the incorrect belief as a Muslim. Yes, this is still a part of ignorance, not understanding Islam, not knowing the basics of jahl, not knowing the basics of the Islamic belief system. That causes a person to do what? When you don't know the basics, for example, if a person doesn't understand the basics of the decree of Allah, the basics of the qadr, that nothing happens, as we say, nothing under the sun, nothing happens except that Allah already knew it was going to happen, right? And that Allah decreed for it to happen. Whether we like what happened, whether when it happened we were happy, or when it happened it hurt us. It might have been hurtful. People die and it hurts. Even at death, Allah had knowledge that that person was going to die at that time, that place, in the way that they died. That's basic aqeedah. That's basic from the 6 pillars of faith. Nothing escapes Allah's decree, right? If a person doesn't understand that, and we see a lot of people don't, it might sound basic, but a lot of people don't. People, when something happens that it's not pleasing to them, they'll say, what? Why? They'll question the creator. They'll question the one who gave them everything that they get, everything that Allah gave them from good. They was happy, they was up, they was all that. They never said why. They never asked why Allah gave them this and Allah gave them that and Allah blessed me with this and Allah gave me this money, gave me this job, he hooked me up, I got to hook up. I knew that was never a question, right? The question came when something came that it wasn't what I wanted to happen, right? Then they'll start questioning the creator. And the reality is that's a basic point of aqeedah. That's a basic point of the 6 pillars of Iman. Tayyib, he says the second thing from ignorance is that little attention is given to what we believe. Right? There's little attention given to what we believe. Now, where does that attention go to? It could go to whatever it goes to. Little attention is given to what the Muslim is supposed to believe, the basic Islamic belief system. Tayyib. And this is the mushkila. He says those things happen, meaning not learning what we believe, not teaching what we believe, not giving any importance to the aqeedah, the belief of the Muslims, right? Imagine this. He said this happens, just imagine us in the community. He said, حتى ينشأ جيل لا يعرف تلك العقيدة, until a generation is raised, a generation of Muslims are raised who don't understand and they do not know the belief of the Muslims. A whole generation will come and they won't understand what the Muslims are supposed to believe, the real belief of Muslims. It's dangerous, right? Allahu A'lam if this is going on now. Allahu A'lam. He says, لا يعرف ما يخالفها ويضادها. They don't know what goes against our belief. Some Muslims right now, they see no problem with celebrating Christmas. Some people, they don't see it. They don't even see an issue with it. Right? Allah Mustaan. Basic belief of the Muslims. It's a basic belief of the Muslims. We're not talking we're talking about basic standard Islamic beliefs. Right? Or any other religious holiday that a non-Muslim celebrates. Right? They have their holidays and we have our holidays. Right? Tayyib. He said that until a generation will come and they will not even know, they won't understand the correct belief. Tayyib. Listen to this. He says, فَيَعْتَقِدُ الْحَقْ بَاطِلًا وَالْبَاطِلْ حَقًّا. So that generation who don't understand the basic Islamic belief, aqeedah, they will believe that the truth is false. And they will believe that what's false is the truth. Based on what? Based on ignorance. Ignorance of what? Huh? Ignorance of knowledge of the religion. Specifically, ignorance of what the Muslims believe. Basic beliefs. Belief in Allah. Belief in the 6 pillars. So that's the asl. That's the start of our aqeedah. Belief in the 6 pillars. Right? He says, and this is as Umar radiallahu anhu said, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, إنما تنقض العرى الإسلام عروة عروة إذا نشأ في الإسلام من لا يعرف الجاهلية. And this is almost like the statement. This is a statement of Umar ibn Khattab. Umar ibn Khattab, who was who? Who was Umar ibn Khattab? Huh? Yes, that's what we need. Umar ibn Khattab is the second Khalifa. The second Khalifa. Of course, he's a companion, one of the leaders, but he's the second Khalifa, right? After who? After Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhum. He said, yes, and all of the virtues of Omar, we should know Omar's story, just like we should know all of the stories, the Sahaba, especially the 10 promised paradise, right? 10 people promised paradise during the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What were they doing? What did they do in their lives to gain that level? That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned them in the hadith by name. What did they do to get to that level? We should want to know, right? And read their stories. Tayyib. And this is on page 23. The bond of Islam shall be broken one thing at a time, one time at a time, when a generation grows up not knowing about Jahiliyyah. Basically, that the people lose their deen, shwaya shwaya, as they say, piece by piece. They lose a little bit of their religion as time goes on, based on them not knowing what goes against their religion. Not knowing what's haram, right? As they say, you know things by the what? The opposite of it. So you learn Tawheed, you learn the oneness of Allah, and you also learn the shirk, right? And it becomes Tawheed becomes even more clear, right? Tayyib. That's the first reason he mentions, ignorance of the correct belief system. Then number 2, he says, التعصب لما عليه الآباء والأجداد. He says, the translation is fanaticism. What is fanaticism? That's what I'm saying. Let me read it again. It says fanatically clinging to what one's fathers and ancestors were upon. Huh? That's the point. We need a whole nother way to say that.
Is it more so like the culture, like you care more about the culture because you're ignorant?
Fanatically clinging to what one's fathers and ancestors were upon. Extreme in following what our parents taught us. Extreme in it. Extreme. Going to extremes. Fanatic. Fanatic. To be a fanatic is like you over the top with it. Ghulu. Yeah, well, that's another one. Fanatically, right? Fanatically clinging, sticking to whatever our parents taught us or our grandparents, right? This is a reason for what? Deviation, leaving the correct belief of the Muslims. The Muslims have a belief. If what our parents taught us goes against the belief of the Muslims, we don't take what our parents, we don't just stick with that going against what Allah says, what his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. It's real simple, just like that. No disrespect to our parents. That don't mean you got to call your mother out of her name, like as some people used to do. Don't mean you got to call anybody and be disrespectful. The correct aqeedah of a Muslim does not equal that we got bad behavior. It don't equal that our mouths are just out of control. It's not, they don't go together. They don't equal each other. You believe, right? Your aqeedah is correct, right? And you can just talk like anything. That's not the correct way. Tayyib, he says, under this number 2, وَالتَّمَسُّكْ بِهِ وَإِنْ كَانَ بَاطِلًا. Sticking and not leaving off what we were taught as children by our parents, even if it's incorrect. Sticking to what we were taught, if it's incorrect, if it goes against deen, if it goes against what Allah said, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us, sticking to what we were taught, even if it's false, even if it's wrong. This is a reason for a person to go against the basic beliefs of the Muslim. He says, وَتَرْكْ مَا خَالَفَهُ وَإِنْ كَانَ حَقًّا. And leaving the truth, and leaving off the things that go against our deen. Even if we know we should, we should be doing it. So what does it mean? Basically, a person goes so far, they're extreme in accepting what they were taught by their parents or their grandparents or their grandmother, their grandfather, right? Or however far back they go, to the point that once they even know that what they were taught were incorrect, they refuse to follow the truth, right? They refuse to follow the truth. So that's my grandmom. She really, right? They got attachment to them, personal, emotional attachment to a person, which allows them, it takes them over the top. It takes them, and they go too far and taking that statement, even if it's not right, over what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Clear? Which this, all of this does, y'all, in a nutshell, all of this does, all of these things mentioned, it returns us back to Allah. That's how strong our connection is supposed to be with Allah. That's how strong our connection is supposed to be with the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? It doesn't matter who said it. With all due respect, we can't do that. We're not doing that. We're not following that. I can't follow that. That goes against what I believe. Y'all, we don't have to show up at Christmas parties. We don't. No disrespect. That's their holiday if that's what they do. To you, your way, and to me, my way. Right? Do you see a bunch of non-Muslims flocking to fast Ramadan? Are they flocking not to eat all day for 16, 14 hours at a time? Are they flocking to stand for an hour and a half after a whole day of fasting for 30 days straight and pray Tawheed? Right? Are they flocking to get up and on the day of their Eid, get up early, still don't eat anything, get judged? They're not flocking to do that. And they don't feel any way. They don't feel like they're being rude. All right? We feel like some people think, I was invited to a Christmas party. It's going to be rude if I don't go. Right? Huh? He said it was rude for them to invite him. They might not have understood. They might, and this is what he said, because the brother said it was rude for the non-Muslim to invite me to a Christmas party. Right? Maybe they didn't know. Maybe what you showed them from Islam, with what I showed them, maybe what I showed them from my deen of Islam, they didn't think it was a problem with me coming. They didn't think I had a problem. The way you out here, I figured you come through. Basically, you know what I'm saying? Allah Muslim, Allah protect us, right? I mean, but maybe some of us, you know what I'm saying? Maybe what we showing people from our deen, he probably comes, you know what I'm saying? And if they did do that, say they did invite, trying to be smart, that don't necessitate that we got to be ignorant. That don't necessitate we got to jump out of our Islamic character, right? And go against what the Prophet ﷺ taught us and what we taught in the Quran as far as behavior and dealing with people who are ignorant. It don't necessitate it. Tayyib. He says, this is just as Allah said, and this is the verse from Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 170, where Allah says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ. If it is said to them, follow what Allah revealed, follow the revelation. قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُوا مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ أَبَاءَنَا. They say, we're going to follow what we found our fathers and grandfathers following. We're following that, which means we're not going to follow what Allah revealed. We're going to follow what we were taught by our fathers and grandfathers. That's what we follow. Then Allah said, أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. Even though their grandfathers, their parents, even though they were not people who were guided, even though they were not on the right path, they're still going to follow them. And that's Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 170. It says here, when it is said to them, follow what Allah has sent down, they say, nay, we shall follow what we found our fathers following, even though their fathers did not understand anything, nor were they guided. Fathers not just meaning the father, their parents taught. It could have been the mother or the father, right? They were taught something by their parents, their grandparents, that's incorrect. They refused to leave that, even though it goes against what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the Quran and the Sunnah. Tayyib, number 3, the third reason that leads a person to go against what the Muslim believes. He says, التقليد الأعمى بأخذ الأقوال الناس في العقيدة من غير معرفة دليلها. He says, blind following This is what? This one thing, before we go any further, y'all. This applies to us. We do know that, right? We're not talking about people like off in an alleyway somewhere. We're talking about us. How is it that we who say we love the Quran, we love the Sunnah, how is that a person possibly, we became Muslim to be better? And how is that we possibly go against what Allah said or what the Prophet ﷺ said? Clear? It applies to us. This is not like, we're not talking about 1,000-year-old people in the desert somewhere under a rock. We could possibly go against the correct belief. Clear? We shouldn't apply this stuff and listen to it and take it in and digest it. Like, no, that's not for us. That's probably like people somewhere, like whatever we think. No, this applies to us. That a person leaves the correct belief, blind following people, and taking, as he says, taking the statements when it comes to what the Muslims believe, aqeedah, without knowing the evidence for the statement. This is not me. See, now if I say this, I'm attacking people and all this whole crazy stuff, right? Attacking the Ahlul Sunnah, all this whole funny stuff, right? Sheikh Salih Fawzan, one of the reasons is that a person blind follow, they just taking people's statements about what we believe without knowing any dalil about that statement. So you can come, and because I know you, because we come up, I know you to be this, that, and the third. You tell me something about what the Muslim believes. I don't know where you got it from, because you didn't mention the ayat, you didn't mention the hadith, right? You just say, yo, we can't be doing that. I take that, I believe it, I put it in my, use it in my heart, and I practice my religion like that. And it's from something that aqeedah, right? This is a reason for what? Going away or going against what the Muslim believes without knowing the dalil. You don't know any text. You don't know any verse, any hadith of the Prophet ﷺ connected to it. All right? It's a time we living in, y'all. Anybody come in front of us and say anything. And if we say, well, where you get that? What's the verse? Where is that in the Quran? People get offended. Like, you can't ask me where's I'm telling you. Right? Like, that's supposed to mean something. You know, some people, they start making faces. I'm trying. Like the face, like the face you made makes what you said more correct than it was before you made the face. Like, the face don't mean nothing. You don't have anything from Quran and the, right? Quran, 6,000 verses in the Quran, over 6,000 verses. You don't have not one verse out of 6,000 to say, prove what you're saying. Hundreds of thousands of statements of the Prophet say something. You have anything. But we will say who said it. Imam so-and-so said it, this sheikh said it, this one. We're talking about aqeedah, right? Somebody dies, there's a bunch of death in the Muslim peace and paradise. So they could be, no telling what type of life the person lives. No telling what type of life the person was living, right? They die. This is just the reality, y'all. A lot of Muslim, nobody Muslim, oh, they was Muslim? All that time he was Muslim? All that time she was Muslim? Right? Which shows that a reputation matters, right? Now it's the janazah. That's a whole nother joint. Janazah. The way we behave at janazah is a whole nother class. Now the janazah time, right? Where did the Muslim get that a peace in paradise? What does that even mean? A peace in paradise and whatever. They got a bunch of different sayings as if that person is guaranteed paradise. They in paradise. Like, just a bunch of things that are internet phrases. Allahu Alam who starts them. But the problem is, we're Muslim. We have a belief system. We have an aqeedah. We have a way we believe when it comes to death. That's our way, right? The internet don't override that. The internet does not override our belief system. No matter how many people shared it and retweeted and posted it, views, it doesn't override what the Muslims believe, right? So taking statements when it comes to how we believe in Allah, right, and aqeedah, without knowing any text connected to it, right? Not even know. And if they have a text, if they have it, or is that even valid? Is that an authentic hadith? These are valid questions. We talking about, right, what we believe. He says كما هو الواقع من الفرق المخالفة من الجهمية والمعتزلة والأشاعرة والصوفية وغيرهم حيث قلدوا من قبلهم من أئمة الضلال فضلوا وانحرفوا عن الاعتقاد الصحيح. He said, and this is the same thing that happened, and he mentioned four groups that have innovative practices, four groups that practice aqeedah that's not from the aqeedah that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. That's now we found the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, right? It says in these groups, the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'tazila, the Ash'ari, the Sufis, and the Sufiya, and others, because there's a bunch of groups, y'all. What each group believes is not really important right now. What's important is, as he said, that they followed these people in the groups. They followed the people that was before them, right? From their imams. So they end up leaving the straight path, just following people based on what they tell them, which is no disrespect, y'all. We shouldn't, if we're the people teaching, if you telling somebody something about Islam, whether they're Muslim or they're not Muslim, and they ask you, where did you get that from? Where can I find that? Maybe I want to look it up. We shouldn't be offended. Why are we offended if somebody asks us, where can I find that at?
Because the majority of us is speaking with no knowledge. So as soon as they ask that, they kind of pull our card.
You get your card pulled, right? Yeah. We're gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
You get your card pulled, and it's not no big deal. It ain't not a big deal like that, but it's not difficult to do. You tell somebody something like they used to do, brothers used to do, and they used to come on, they used to reference the verses in the Quran. They'd be like 182, right? That's Surah Al-Baqarah 2, Surah 2, verse 182. At least you got something, right? Where can I find it? Oh man, that's in 183. So at the least, a person go to the Quran, the Noble, go to chapter 3, Surah, verse 183, and look up what you're talking about. It's something. If somebody asks you, we just supposed to take what you're saying just because me and you all right? Just because everybody knows you a good brother, you a good sister, you've been around, as we say, because we think because we've been around. That's another thing. We think because you've been around so long, what you say must be right. That's not our deen, right? If you are so right and you've been around so long, you should be able to direct me where you got it from. It should be easy since you've been around so long. Since you've been around so long and you done did all this stuff in the community, you should be able to tell me where I could find that at. Right? We shouldn't be offended. Where can I find? I never heard that. That's the first time I heard that. You never heard that? No. Where you get that from? Psh, you never heard that? No. I just said that. You gonna keep that? We're gonna keep putting it back on you. You never heard that? No. Psh, you had to hear that. I didn't hear it. So where can I find it? Psh, it's joint all over. Oh, it's inside Bukhari. MashaAllah. Like, yeah, it's inside Bukhari. 4,000 hadith. I gotta sift through 6,000 hadith to find what you're talking about. It's easier, even if it ain't. And this is another thing. It don't like have to be in Arabic. It's English. You read English. If we are English reading people, we have references in English. It's a Sahih Bukhari, 9 volumes. That's volume 2. It's a famous print. Everybody probably got the same print. Or if you got the summarized, which one you got? That's in volume 2. It's not that difficult. We shouldn't be offended. Tayyib. He says, number 4, from the reasons that lead a person that we're going against, that will push us to go against what the Muslim correctly believes. And this is al-ghulu fil awliya wa salihin. I got to read this one because somebody might have this at home. This is number 4, right? This is 4. There you are. All right. So number 2 was at-ta'assub. Number 4, al-ghulu. Al-ghulu. Extremism. Being extreme. He says extremism with regards to awliya. Extremism with regards to the friends of Allah. Saints. Saints, as it translated here, right? Going overboard when it comes to the friends of Allah, saints, and the pious people. What's pious, y'all? Righteous. What's righteous? People that do good deeds. طيب.
In accordance with
Religious.
Quran and Sunnah.
People doing religious deeds, good deeds in accordance according to the Quran and Sunnah. طيب. That the people go to extremes with the awliya. What is a saint? That's what it says, huh?
Like somebody that's like so righteous that people believe they're above human in a sense.
MashaAllah, gee. Somebody so righteous that people think they're above human, being a human. They don't commit sin. Jayid. Okay. Anybody else? What is a saint? Because it's translated into English here as a saint. Awliya. Wali. The word is wali in Arabic. The plural is awliya. Tayyib. It says, it's two translations here. It says, the friends of Allah. Who are the friends of Allah? These friends of Allah, these friends of Allah, right? He's translating the awliya, the people we talking about, the people who, the saints. Saints, they translate as friends of Allah. Tayyib. Now there's another hadith, and this is intentional. I had to bring this intentionally for this. It's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is in 40 hadith. If you want to go back and look it up, this hadith is number 38 in Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith. It's also in Sahih Bukhari, but if you want to get right to it, it's in the 38 of Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith. And this is a hadith Qudsi, where Allah says in this hadith, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله تعالى قال, that Allah said, hadith Qudsi, من عاد لي وليا فقد آذنته بالحرب فقد آذنته بالحرب. This is a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah said, whoever harms one of my wali, whoever harms a wali of mine, Allah said, then they should prepare to go to war with Allah. Everybody with me? Hadith number 38, Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith. It's recorded in Sahih Bukhari, right? عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله تعالى قال, that Allah said, من عاد لي وليا فقد آذنته بالحرب. Whoever harms one of, this is Allah speaking, whoever harms one of my wali, then basically that person should prepare to go to war with Allah. Right now, who are the wali? Who are the awliya? Who are these saints? The wali is the saint, as we said. Who is the saint? Huh? That we just spoke about, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, it's the super righteous people.
As we say, the super righteous people who some people might even think they're human, right? That's what we think. That's the understanding we have of a saint, right? But who is a wali? This is the point. We got to go with a wali, the explanation of what a wali. Who are these people that if you harm them, that we should be prepared to go to war with Allah by harming these people? This is the explanation of 40 hadith. Listen, we think these are, as we say, super righteous religious people. They might not even be human. We're going to listen. Or even if you say the scholar, that's a high level of Islam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wait, sit down.
When you're referring to the saints, are you referring to like in our times, like religious leaders? Like your class on like shake worshiping?
Don't do that, sister. Don't bring up the shake worship. That was we're not gonna mess with the shake worship tonight. We're gonna leave that part alone. But listen, that's where the mentality of us is exactly what you're saying, right? But pay attention, because that means, for example, if we restrict it to sheikhs, right? That means whoever harms a sheikh, then they're gonna go to war. They should be prepared to go to war with Allah. I'm gonna look at myself and say, well, I ain't harming no sheikhs. Ain't even no sheikhs around, so I'm good. I don't know nobody that's super religious like that not almost non-human, so I'm good, right? If we understand it like that. It says here, أما في الاصطلاح فالولي عند أهل السنة. A wali to the people of the Sunnah, أهل السنة هو كل مؤمن تقي ليس بنبي. Every believer that has taqwa that's not a prophet. Whoever harms every believer, any believer that has taqwa, that person is not a prophet, then they should be prepared to go to war with Allah. Question: is it possible somebody in this room right now is from the friends of Allah? It's possible. Would you be able to tell who's from the awliya by looking at them? No. How you harm a Muslim? You harm a Muslim. That Muslim we harm could be from the awliya, the friends of Allah. As it says here, the saints. Not a saint like the non-Muslims hold a saint to be. Right? And I did that intentionally so we understand that our definitions are based on our deen. Our definition is not based on another deen. It's possible that your wife, your husband, it's possible that these people right under your nose, right under our noses, are from these people. And if we harm them, then what? We should be prepared. And who's going to go to war with Allah Jalla wa Ala? That's the hadith says, yeah. Which is the reason why it's no way Muslims should be comfortable harming other Muslims. It's basic Islam. It's no way. Who made it okay? Where do we get that it's okay for us to harm each other? When the Prophet ﷺ told us something like this. Tayyib, he says, well, iman wa taqwa tatafadal. Iman, a person's faith, their iman, and their taqwa of Allah, their fear of Allah, it varies depending on each person. Right? If you count all the brothers in the room and the sisters on the sister side, everybody's iman could vary. Everybody's may not be on the same level. Right? He says, فَتَكُونَ الْوِلَايَةِ يعني, the wilaya, meaning, مَحَبَّةُ اللَّهِ لِعَبْدِهِ, the love of Allah, Allah's love for a specific person. Right? Allah's love for every single one of us, specifically, the level of love that Allah, not that you have for Allah, that Allah has for you, the level of that, and how much Allah will help and aid a person, right? He says this is also mutafadila, it varies. Allah could love the brother or the sister sitting right next to you way more than he loves you, or vice versa. How would you know by looking the person in their face? Right? He says, so what is intended is according to each person's ability, right? And strengthening their faith, their iman. And Allah's love is going to be according to each person's ability. You don't know who you harming, which is part of our problem in this city. Who okayed it for Muslims to harm each other? How did that become a norm? When we don't have anything from the text, nothing from Revelation to support that. Right? He said in this definition of what a wali, of what a friend of Allah is, or if you got the translation, it says a saint. He said this is based on the verse, y'all. You should want to, this is a verse. You want to have a verse because you go around telling people the friends of Allah, they're going to say, well, dad, I never heard that. Right? The verse, Surah to Yunus. Surah Yunus, ayat 62 and 63. Surah Yunus, ayat 62 and 63. Allah says, Ala inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. Allah said, the friends of Allah, there is no fear on them. They have no fear and no sadness shall touch them. I'm glad I looked at this, because that verse is not in the translation. That verse is not in the translation. The next one is. Let me see. This number 4, right? So, yeah, that verse is not in the translation. So if you want to write that down, that's Surah Yunus, ayat 62 and 63. Allah says that the awliya, la khawfun alayhim, no fear on them. They don't fear. Wa la hum yahzanun. They don't get sad. They're not saddened by what. Then Allah said, Alladhina amanu wa kanu yattaqun. Those who Who? The awliya. Those who believe, amanu wa yattaqun, and they fear Allah. They have taqwa of Allah, which could be a lot of people. You don't know who you harming. And if we harm them, we don't want to harm the awliya of Allah. Then he says, this is Sheikh Saleh Ali Sheikh, Hafidullah, his explanation of 40 hadith. He says, فَجَعْلَ الْأَوْلِيَاء هُمْ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الْمُتَّقُونَ. So in that verse, Allah said that those people, those friends, as we said, of Allah, are the people, the believers who fear Allah Jalla wa Ala, which could be a person sitting right next to you. Tayyib. Back to our the original book, which was number 4. So what is he saying here? That a person goes to extreme with these people. They go to extreme when it comes to the friends of Allah. How does a person go to extreme regarding them people when it comes to the friends of Allah? He says, رَفْعُهُمْ فَوْقَ مَنْزِلَتِهِمْ, that you put them on a level that they're not really on. So you take the brother or the sister, you see them to be better than you. They practicing, they deening more than you, right? They deening, they better than you. They do more worship than you. They do everything more than you, right? So a person takes that person and they go to extreme and what that person can do and what that person can't do, their abilities. They go to extreme, right? And then to the point they put them on a level they're not really on. He says to the point they do what? بحيث يعتقد فيهم ما لا يقدر عليه إلا الله من جلب النفع ودفع الضر. To the point that they look at them people and they raise them to the point where they believe that these brothers or these sisters can do things that only Allah is capable of doing. That's how far they go. So they think that the person can actually bring benefit to them and protect them from harm. Not Allah, the person. They think the person, based on their righteousness and their deen and how good they are as Muslims, they start to think, okay, they can protect me. That's how far they go, which goes against the basic Islamic belief system. That Allah is Al-Hafidh, Al-Hafidh. Allah is the protector, right? They go so far. This is on page 24. It says they also take them as intermediaries between Allah and his creatures with regards to fulfillment of the creature's needs and response to their supplications.
It's crazy.
I'm sorry.
In Sufi books, they call them, that's what they translate to as saints.
The saints? Tayyib.
In Sufism, they got that thing, the person get to the status where they don't got to do ibadah and all that. And they call them, when they translate it to English in their books, they call them saints.
Saints. Got to be careful. Got to be, that's right. So it says that they take these people, they deen and all that, they nice people, and they go so far, it says they take them as intermediaries. What is an intermediary? A person that is in between Bain Allah wa bain khalqihi. Right? They take the person, so now they won't ask Allah directly. They'll start asking the person along that line. He said, like brother said, like a priest with confessions. It goes far. That's how extreme it is. Extreme. That's extreme to us. If other people believe that, that's their belief. Right? If other people, other religions believe, that's their belief. If they can, that's what they want to believe, that's on them. To us, that's not allowed. That's extreme. That's going overboard in the praise of a person. That's putting the person above their level, which Islam doesn't allow us to do. Right? It says that they put a person between them. So instead of you just asking Allah to help you in your situation, now you're asking that person to help you in the situation. He says, في قضاء الحوائج وإجابة الدعوة, and answering the dua. حتى يؤول الأمر إلى عبادتهم من دون الله, until they go so far that they end up worshiping them. They didn't start off worshiping them. They start off, they was just better than me. That's the sheikh. That's the imam. That's a good brother. That's a good sister. They better than me. Cool, maybe. But that has limits. It's limits. Islam capped it off. There's limits. Right? We're not saying it's not people better than us. There are. It's people better than us. People who do way more worship than us. People who do way more everything. They're better Muslims than I am. Alhamdulillah. We look at them people and we should be inspired to do better. We don't look at them people and we put them above what they really are. That means we went outside the box. We went outside the bounds of what Islam allows. People go, he says, to the point where they worship them instead of worshiping Allah Jalla wa Ala. Tayyib, that was number what? That was number 4. Tayyib, number 5. It says, Al-ghaflatu an tadabbur ayat Allah al-kawniyya wa ayat Allah al-Qur'aniyya. See how he translated this. This ain't nothing against the translator, y'all. It's nothing against the translator. I don't know the translator. I just grabbed it because I found it. Tayyib. It says, the next one, number 5. Heedlessness of the signs of Allah in the universe and the verses of his book, the Quran. What? Heedlessness of the signs of Allah in the universe. What does that mean? Huh? Lacking? What does it mean to be heedless? You're not paying attention. A person that's heedless, an airhead, maybe. They're not paying attention, right? A person, they just not really. What do you want to say, Funda? Ish? قلة ish? How would you say it in English? Why you can't? That's what I'm saying. Well, I'm not. What I'm saying is, you got to be able to. It got to transfer over. That's a good one. He said.
Why you didn't just say not pondering and not thinking about the ayahs of Allah?
Which one? Not pondering or not thinking?
Either one.
Not pondering.
Or not thinking. That's a little more real.
Yeah.
Just pondering.
I mean, I'm not. Listen. All I'm saying is this. What part of the city you from?
West.
What part of the city you from?
South.
West Philly in the house. Ma'alish. North. South Philly in the house. All right. I'm not getting into all that. Shit. No, all right. All I'm saying is this. West Philly, South Philly, North Philly, Uptown, Journey, whatever. I don't know people, me personally, who talk like that. If you're going back to North Philly, you're going back to West Philly, you're going back to South Philly to talk to people about Islam, are you going to go to them and say, you have to ponder over? That's what I'm saying. So the point is, you got to talk to people in the language that they understand. You have to be able to, I'm not saying these words are wrong, ponder. I'm saying the people you talking to, that we talking to, do they talk like that? Because if they don't talk like that, we just talking. He's deep. That's the thing. Oh, deep. You don't know. That means you don't really know what he's talking about. He was too deep for me, Sheikh. Right? You got to be able to talk to people and give them what's important in the way that they understand it without changing the meaning, of course. Like Sheikh Wasila, Hafidullah, he used to always. At first, I was like, we learn Arabic and we learn classical Fusha, proper Arabic in school. You go to the sittings with the ulama, the class of the scholars, they talking in classical, for the most part, pretty much classical Arabic, right? Proper Arabic, right? We go to Sheikh Wasila class, he does that, but then he talking like street Arabic. And even the ulama, they inside the class, they start talking slang and like street Arabic. I'm like, Sheikh, that joint kind of like, I didn't think it was appropriate, personally, right? I'm telling you what Sheikh is doing is not appropriate, right? Show you how ignorant we be. Hey, you can't do that, Sheikh. I'm saying that's to show you how ignorant we be, right? So I'm thinking, but then when you look at it, you got to know the people he talking to, the Arabs, all of them don't understand proper Arabic. You got to put it so that the person sitting in front of you understand what you're saying, right? He will always say, he was like, Mokida. When I first heard him say, he was like, dang, Sheikh said that. That's like a street term. You can use that. That's like terms they use in the street in Saudi. Mokida, right? Stuff like that. And I'm not saying we should talk like street people. What I'm saying is we have to be able to connect and deliver the message in the language that people understand. That's why I said, you want to say ponder or you want to say think? You know what I'm saying? Ponder, a person might say, He might hopefully be like, what you mean? Hopefully, right? Hopefully they say what you mean and ask you what you really mean by that and don't let it just go over their head. So he says, thinking about, not. He says to be heedless, that a person doesn't think, they're not even paying attention to the creation that Allah created in front of us. The fact that a woman is pregnant for 9 months, a baby grows in there, a whole human being grows in there. She carries a whole baby, whole nother person, right? The person comes out of the womb with everything that we have, hands, everything in place already. I'm talking about spinal cord, everything on the inside is already set up, heart beating, everything ready. That's tadabbur. That's thinking about how does Allah, that's not saying how does Allah do it, but that's just reflecting and thinking like, subhanAllah, look at the greatness of Allah. Look how great Allah is that the creation comes out like that. Not by her doing, she just carried it. Right? And then she give you that multiple times. And then you disrespect her, ya sheikh. Haram alik, as they say. She carry a whole baby. Women die having birth. Muslim sisters and non-Muslims, they die on the table. They die on the table. Right? Sometimes the baby lives. Breathing, everything. Alhamdulillah. That's thinking about the creation of Allah, subhanAllah. Right? The sun comes up, it goes down, the time changing, the water, fish living in the water. It's a whole world underwater. They can't live outside of the water. We can't live in the water. Like, this is basic things. It's thinking about those things, and the person reflects how Allah created these things. And if you reflect on the creation, it understands you, it helps you understand how great the creator is. Right? So he says, not thinking about those things can lead a person to leaving the correct belief. Because sometimes we think things are deep like it is because we did it. I put in all this work. I did all this. I was grinding. I was on my and we think the result is because of what I did. And that means we did what? Huh? We basically removed that result that Allah did it. We take Allah out of the equation, as we say. That's based on what I did. Right? So he says that's one. And number two, not thinking about the verses in the Quran, what we reciting. Not thinking about the meaning of what we recite. Right? Not even pondering on the meaning of Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. What does that mean? Yeah, all praise for Allah. That's it. All praises for Allah. But to think, and what does that mean? All praises. What is the all praises? How does that fit in? Like, all praises, what does that mean? Right? Any type of praise, you understand? To think and start going in the verses, and when you don't do that, and you just recite and you just going, right? Is a person really thinking about what they're saying? And if you go on like that for years, if we do any of these things, you're going for years, right? Your iman gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, right? I'm sorry. So number 5 is that a person is heedless. They're not thinking about what Allah created, the creation, and they're not thinking about the verses in the Quran, because ayat is used for two things. Ayat can be used for, these are signs of that a creator exists. Every day. How many suns are there? Yeah, sun and sky. Our universe, Jay. How many moons? So you're telling me that one sun sheds light on the whole world? Everybody benefits from that one light?
Not at the same time, but
Not at the same time, but the fact is one. The moon, one moon, and right? To not reflect and think about those things, right? Because those are ayat. The sun is an ayat. It's called the ayat. Just like the ayat in the Quran. The sun is an ayat. It's a sign, right? So in this case, the sun is a sign that there's a creator. It comes up, it goes, the world is turning. These are signs. They're called ayat. So you got to think about, when you see those signs, you got to think about them. Eclipse. Right? That's of Allah. That's supposed to, right? And then the other ayat are the verses in the Quran. That's the ayat in the Quran. That's a verse in the Quran that we're supposed to think about both of them. And not thinking about either one of them is a problem. This is a reason for a person to leave the correct belief and go against, or go at least go against the correct belief. Tayyib, let's move. Number 6. He says, أصبح البيت في الغالب خاليا من التوجيه السليم. He says that our houses become empty regarding Islamic direction. Let me see how he translated it though. That was just my job. He might have. Number 6. This is on page 26. He says most homes have become devoid of the correct orientation and guidance. You crazy. Yes. No dean in the house. Thank you. There's no dean in the house. That's perfect, in my opinion. No dean. Listen, y'all, for real. If we're not doing no dean in the house, right? If you're not doing anything religious in the house, how do you really expect to carry on year after year like that as a Muslim? How? Because a woman, and because brothers, because we wear kufis, thobes, izars, it don't mean that you're doing Islam. A person could have on a thobe all day and not pray. She could have on a whole abaya, scarf, wrapped up, tucked in, with the pin on the side, all the stuff that we, right, sisters? All of the, whatever y'all, tarha, she could have all the stuff. She didn't pray all day. She missed all 5 of them. If it's no deen, if you missed all 5, imagine when you go home, what's in the house going on? If we're not doing Islam in the house, how do we really expect, let alone our children, how do we really expect Islam to remain in our hearts? It's not even realistic. People leaving Islam, you heard such and such, they not Muslim no more. And sometimes I heard people say, well, I ain't surprised. Right? Yeah, it's not even like people say, I ain't surprised. Why do they say they're not surprised? Because the person, as we say, they wasn't practicing. They ain't like, right? How do we think? We think it's magic. Like, this is not magic. This is a deen, right? We have actions that we have to do. Islam, pillars of Islam, 5 pillars, right? Those pillars have actions in them. The first pillar is the aqeedah, the belief, the shahada. Like after the shahada, immediately after that, we got to do what? Pray. We can't just sit around and say the shahada all day and not pray. You can sit around and say the shahada all day, but you still, when it's time to pray, you got to get up, pray. If you want to sit back down and say the shahada some more, you can do that. Right? But there are actions. Fasting Ramadan, this is an action. It's part of our deen. Paying zakat. Like this is a'mal. It's not enough that we just got the look, we got a name, we give all our kids all these nice names, mashallah. In the house, if it's no deen, what's going to happen? Eventually, it's going to wear on a person's heart. Eventually. So now when people start looking different physically, when we look at them, you can physically see the difference. Because first you might hear, they might start talking crazy. Are you talking crazy? They start posting funny stuff. Yo, what's up? Right? Next thing you know, she ain't covered. Do you think that was overnight? No, that was a buildup. He wasn't doing something. Now he posting stuff on the internet. Oh, you see that last joint he did? That's a buildup. What are we doing Islamically when we go in the house behind the doors when when we all not together? Right now, what we really doing from Deen? And that's what he's saying. Number 6. أصبح البيت في الغالب. Generally, the house have become empty inside the house. There's no Islam in the house. But if you come outside, like my teacher used to do, got all the stuff on. Assalamu alaikum. All that outside, right? And then we go in the house, and there's none of that in the house. That's a problem. And eventually, it's going to take, and Allah alam how long it takes, and everybody's different, but going down that path, eventually a person is affected. And that's why he brings a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu كل مولود يولد على الفطرة فأبواه يحودانه أو ينصرانه أو يمجسانه. That the Prophet sallallahu said, and he said, فالأبوان لهما دور كبير في تقويم اتجاه الطفل. He says that this hadith, that every child is born on the fitrah, the pure monotheism. Every person is born purely understanding in their heart the oneness of Allah. Every person is already born with the fitrah to believe in the oneness of Allah Jalla wa Ala. One creator. The Prophet ﷺ said, it's the parents that make the person a Jew or a Christian. The parents, the effect of the parents, and that's the responsibility of the parents. The parents, whether y'all together or not, whether y'all still married or y'all not still married, the child is the responsibility of the parents, the mother and the father. If y'all still married, alhamdulillah. If y'all ain't, it's still your responsibility, sister, and it's still your responsibility, brother, to raise that child as a Muslim. Because the Prophet ﷺ said it's the parents that change the child to a Jew or a Christian. Allah protect us. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. Parents, we responsible. We have a responsibility. Allah blessed you and gave you children. That's your responsibility to Yom Al-Qiyamah. And because y'all still not married, a man and a woman still not married, they get a divorce. That does not remove the responsibility of the father. The father's responsibility is not removed from raising your child because y'all not together anymore. That the responsibility of the mother raising that child is not removed because y'all not married anymore. And for one of the either one, for the mother to intentionally not allow the father to help raise the child is a problem. It's going to be a problem, and vice versa. To intentionally keep the other parent out of the life of the child, it's going to come back. Might be cute because they little, you don't think they need the other person right now. It'll come back though. Islam, we Muslim. You got to be just and fair all the time. Can't just be, well, we went through something, so I'm going to just do it. All right, well, understand, as the Prophet ﷺ said, Kama Yudin, Yudan. The way you treat people, the way you practice, the way it's going to be practiced on you. Huh? Yeah, it could be that with the children.
And they go back to the earlier thing about the awliya.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the, I'll explain it. A lot of the children can fall up under.
Could be grown. Like your children get old enough. That's another joint. We gonna stop after this. Ihjam wasa'il. This is number 7. It says ihjam wasa'il ta'lim. Number 7. We could do that one last. Huh? That was number 6. That was the one about that the houses become empty of Islamic knowledge or Islamic practice. He says, number 7, the failure of the channels of education and information in most of the Islamic world to fulfill their duties. Then he goes on about curriculums and stuff like that. Basically having the different avenues of learning, not having the proper avenues, not being able to get to the information, not presenting the information is also a reason for people to leave the correct belief when it comes to Islam. Not teaching it. All of this goes back, and we live in a time when there's plenty of avenues to learn. It's all over. There's plenty of websites. There's plenty of internet. There's plenty of people that whoever you trust and more than likely they on the internet. What excuse do we have not to learn something? Allah Mustaan. Tell you, we'll stop there, even though we were supposed to do the last three, which was the second part of that was how to stay away from going away from the correct belief. But I think we did enough for the night. All right. Yeah, we'll stop there unless there's any questions. Father. What was number 6, y'all? No dean in the house, as he says. I like that. No dean in the house. That's a big one. That's real. Yes, Father. No dean in the house. I'm gonna tell a brother he can give a khutbah on that.
When a new person takes shahada, and it's like I don't know if it's in a like a faithful manner, we'd be like pray for me, like make dua for me, shahada on that son. Would that count?
That's not extreme. Is it permitted? This question is it permissible for other people to make dua for you? Right? Is it permissible to ask them to make dua for you? Is it permissible to go to a Muslim and say, listen, make dua for me. I want you to make dua for me? Huh? That's a yes or no question, Sheikh. I want no kalam. I want no kalam, Sheikh. Sheikh, I want no kalam. Is it permissible or not? Huh? This is a yes or no question. No. Okay. No, he said no. Yes. That's a whole nother chapter of aqeedah, right? You're asking somebody to do something that they have the ability to do. No problem. They have the ability to make dua for you. You might see like people going on Hajj. You going to a place where the dua is more likely to be accepted. Make dua for me. When you're going to Arafat, I need you to make dua for me. Is the person able to do that? They going to Arafat. You're not asking them to do nothing that's outside of their ability. You're not giving them no. This is a basic, no problem. That doesn't mean because you ask him or her to make dua for you, I mean you shouldn't be making dua for yourself. You should be making dua for yourself first. We can't be not making dua and then you want to tell everybody in the masjid make dua for me. Every time you talk to somebody, man, make dua for me, make dua. And you're not making dua. You leave and don't pray, nah. We supposed to be putting forth as much effort as we can do. And then you see a person that maybe they from the friends of Allah based on what I say. Allahu Alam. And on top of that, you going to make Hajj or you going this or you going to make dua for me. That's not a problem, inshallah. That's not extreme. That's not extreme, not according to me. According to Islam, that's not extremism. Islam extremism is not based on what I say extremism is. Based on what's extreme according to Quran and Sunnah. What's allowed and what's not allowed according to Quran and Sunnah. Play istikhara for you? No, I never heard of that. Allahu Alam. If somebody else can make istikhara for you, Allahu Alam. I don't know about that. That's what I know. We know that part now. No, I'm saying this. That part is known, and that's the thing. That's what I do know. Somebody else making istikhara for you, I don't know about that. Allahu Alam. No doubt.
Assalamu alaikum. If you feel like someone is starting to take you if someone's kind of going to the extreme with the awliya and making you that person, how should you handle that situation?
They're trying to make you the awliya? What you mean?
Like they're going to extremes. They think Allah loves you. They want you to, you know what I mean?
She's saying like if the person comes to you and outwardly showing you that they look at you as awliya.
Like someone is looking at you as a saint and taking those actions.
You should humble yourself. You should humble yourself.
Should you also say something to the person or just like...
You can, yeah.
And what...
You can. You should make dua that Allah makes you better than they think you are.
Shukran.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Father.
You said earlier.
Yes.
In the house. If the parents is not praying, the kids is not going to pray.
No doubt. If the parents not praying, Sheikh said, if the parents not praying, the kids not going to be praying.
It's a big factor inside the household. Everything's supposed to be teaching inside the household. The husband's supposed to be teaching the wife, and the wife, if she's not working, she's supposed to be teaching the children.
Even if she is working. If the wife working, the parent's supposed to be teaching the kids. Husband's supposed to be teaching his wife. If he knows, he might not know. The husband might not know. The wife might have to teach him. If your wife got to teach you, you got to humble yourself. Huh? Is it permissible to learn from women? Is it permissible for women to teach? Is it permissible for a woman to teach her husband? You got to lower yourself. You got to humble yourself. Your wife knows more than you, and her understanding is stronger than yours. You got to humble yourself and learn from your wife. Because we work does not exclude the responsibility of teaching our children. Not the man or the woman. And if it's that bad, if it is that bad and we're not able to, at the least we need to do what? Send them somewhere where they can learn. At the least we said, you know what? I wasn't able to do it. I understand I wasn't able to do it, but I'm going to get that off my neck. Before Allah, I want to at least put them in a better position to learn. At least I can do that. Because I know I might not even be articulate enough to really say what need to be said. But at least I put my kids in a situation where they can learn what they need to learn. And like the Sheikh said, if we ain't praying in the house, if we're not praying in the house, we think this is like magic or something? We're not praying in the house. We're not doing anything from Deen in the house. Why would we think that if we died the next day that our children would carry on as Muslims? Why would we have that just great feeling? If we haven't taught them anything. Right? And it's different. You've been teaching your kids and you say, alhamdulillah, I watched them grow, and alhamdulillah, I don't know, Allah Alam, but I got a good feeling. But if we haven't been doing anything, we like prayer, we don't pray. Our kids don't see us pray in the house. Never. Only time they see us pray is when we go to the masjid. That's a problem. That's a problem. And Allah knows best. So we'll stop there, inshallah. Next week is a chapter, the meaning of it, Tawheed, and the different types of Tawheed. The meaning of Allah's oneness. What does it mean that Allah is one? And the different types, the different categories of a Tawheed. Inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.